It is a therapeutic sight of water here at the riverside in Kpala. It blurs out what is beyond. There are a number of islands beyond this point. Here in Kpala, a lot of philanthropic work goes on. One of the philanthropists, Gifty Andoh, is Ghanaian through marriage. She is originally from the Netherlands. Gifty Andoh manages an NGO called United Projects. She is taking one of the usual trips together with a group of volunteers to check on the various projects being undertaken by her outfit in Kpala. It surely promises to be a long way ahead. Traveling on the water itself is not all fun, especially if you cannot swim. Again, the number of tree stumps in the water definitely gives more room for concern. The boat ride is guided by two fishermen, one in front and one at the back, directing the boat to safety on the river path. Simply put, getting to the island alone is no child's play. Finally, we made it after almost an hour. But that's even because our boat is bigger and faster. It could take you more than an hour with a smaller, slower boat. Jessie and her entourage are received by assemblyman of the area, Sedwa Medu Jubilee. A cluster of schools welcome you to Kpala. There is one government school here, but these schools were built by missionaries. On the small island, the people seem upbeat about education. Most of them frequent the premises, albeit inadequate. But the schools are for only basic education, and pupils who graduate to the junior high level have to make at least a 2-hour journey over the lake by boat and back on a daily basis. Again, lack of accommodation has been a major area of disincentive for teachers posted to this island. Jessie first checks on the community's clinic. The facility is an office of the school converted to serve the purpose. Here, the assemblyman, Sedwa Medu Jubilee, provides first aid and basic clinic tests with some training from a German doctor who volunteered in neighboring Donkokrom.
I do refer them to Margaret Marquardt Hospital or Donkokrom Hospital for treatment.
Both Donkokrom and Margaret Marquardt Hospital in Kpala are hours away by boat. This makeshift clinic setup was provided by United Projects, and most of the supplies here come from their donors. It serves the about 2,000 people living here on this island. Until it becomes risky to handle, health cases from this island are handled here by the assemblyman. The spirit of self-help seems very much at work here, but there have been cases where people have died at the referral hospitals after long boat rides to those destinations. Fake drug sales is also another problem in this community due to lack of adequate health facilities. One of the recent victims lives on this compound. Isina Madiaba was spared to tell her story of fake drugs which most of the villagers fall victim to.
I felt like going to the toilet. And I started vomiting. And then I became dizzy. So I was unconscious, so I don't know when I have been sent to hospital. So at the hospital, people say I was in coma. So she was unconscious, so she doesn't know how she managed to get to the hospital.
The people here are mostly farmers, so food is not hard to come by. But for many years, they have lived with pit latrines and open defecation when it comes to easing themselves. United has sought funds to build them a place of convenience. The assemblyman takes Jessie around to inspect the progress of work on the facility. But this is not your usual toilet facility.
This is EcoCent toilet. This is just the beginning of the construction. So this is the pot that we are going to use to ease in. And this is where we are going to cut the urine. So we will not allow the urine to go into the physics, because when it gets there, because of the ammonia, it will find it difficult to decompose. Yeah. So we are going to connect a pipe through the wall here, and we are going to construct a chamber here, so that when you rate into this thing, it will drain to this side and it will sink here. And we have another one that you cleanse yourself. Some after toilet they clean themselves. You open the second one here, you construct it here. So after you ease yourself, you have to put sawdust or ash on it. Each time you attend the toilet, you do that. So after that, you have to cover the distance that flies will not go in, because when they go in, there are some that worms that will enter the distance and it will make it smelling. But when you cover it tightly, it will not be smelling.
It is designed to also generate a much-needed energy. One side of the two-sided toilet facility can be used by 20 people for a year before switching to the other side, whilst waiting for decomposition to generate the energy. They are very much concerned about personal hygiene here, especially with the advent of Ebola and other communicable diseases. The community does not want to take chances. What was curious, though, is why the assemblyman has lived here for 20 years, as he says, without a place of convenience when he has access to authority in the district assembly, the grassroots outfit responsible for development of this community.
I went to the assembly and I said, this is what we need. But what the assembly told me is that the government is not interested in constructing toilets for the communities, but the communities have to do it themselves. This is what they told me.
It also appears distance might pose a little challenge when nature calls.
When you want to build latrines and also dig wells, there has to be a certain distance in between, because like in this system, the urine will still drain into the ground, and if it would be close to the village or to the well, we are contaminating the water in the ground. Then it means that if we have a well and we pump clean water, it will still be contaminated with the urine. So it has to be at a certain distance. And then it has to be at a certain distance from the village, but also at a certain distance from the water, from the lakeside.
United Projects is a Pando-based community organization. They are of the view there couldn't have been a better way of reaching out to communities around them.
We would really like to help communities improve upon their health and hygiene situation. Every work we do, we base it on research that we do in the community. So we ask the community members what they think they need, and this is what they came up with. And we simply want to help them achieve their goals. So that's where we try to come in, because we have the contacts and a network to fundraise and get the materials. So the community puts in the labor.
Roughly, the NGO has spent over 5,000 and still counting. There is still more to do to finish this project, and they say fundraising is still ongoing. What one wonders, however, is how difficult it is for the district assembly to raise such funds. The frontliners in this town have pledged to own the facility as they have from the beginning and to make it beneficial to the entire community. Kpala is not connected to the national electricity grid. A collaboration between Ghana's Energy Ministry has brought in about 3 solar poles to serve the island of about 2,000 with 4 major communities. Residents of Kpala, who for years have been worried about their children's inability to study in the night, have gone a step further to seek more intervention. With assistance from another NGO, Empower Playing Ground, merry-go-round playing systems have been provided. These generate power as the children play during the day. The power produced from it is used to charge lamps given them to take home. The headmaster of the only government school here can also get his share of the electricity so he can watch his multi-TV. But government had earlier rolled out a solar lantern distribution program, and the assemblyman owes the people an explanation why they are not beneficiaries of that national program.
The solar lantern, when we went to assembly meeting, we were told by our presiding member that we have about 300 lanterns. So those from the island communities should apply. So I was the first person to apply, hoping that I'll get some for my community. But before I realized, they said the government has to pay 70% of it, and the assembly has to pay 30% of this thing. And the MP, our MP, Honorable Didier Boaji, went and paid since the assembly is not having the money to pay. So when he paid for it, he came for the solar lantern, and he distribute it on his own choice. So I didn't receive any. So last we invited him to the assembly meeting, and I put it before him. He said it's oversight, so and another consignment is coming when it comes.
Very soon, this hole should pump out some water for this island. One of the last things Jessie follows up with before she bids the island goodbye for the day. This community borehole is being constructed by the people themselves with training and funding from her outfit, United Projects. The people here are poised for action to bring water to their families and neighbors. The town is grateful for the gesture and seem to have shown good faith in the activities of these NGOs. They have not relented on lending their own efforts as well. From this very park, the people of Kpala have actively participated in the selection of national leadership. Election campaigns have reached them, so have election materials. But for many years, they had lived without potable water, without a place of convenience, without electricity and basic health care. Chief of the town, Togbi Agudatu Adiaba, is said to be gradually nearing his 100th year. He can barely hear a word without a shout into his ear. But he has handed over the leadership of the town to his son, who was absent on our visit. They live for better days ahead for their people. Soon, it was time for Jessie to bid goodbye to the island of hope. The island is indeed instilling a sense of self-help, which promises hope for its future generations, a gesture that every community can learn from. So it's almost 4 p.m. and this is where we say goodbye to the village right there behind us. This is a town that is so cut away from the main town and lacking so many basic amenities. In spite of all these, they are still a beautiful people. Gifty Andoh Apphia, Joy News, Kpala. Better still, on the Lake Volta, in the Volta region. Welcome again, and it's another time and another opportunity for us to educate you on what your rights and responsibilities are according to the constitution that governs this land. My name is Gifty Andoh Apphia, and we're still talking development, the rights to development. Well, we told you in our previous discussions on the development that we will bring you a second part of that discussion. And I have with me the same person that we spoke to earlier on, Emmanuel Koile, who is the Africa Regional Coordinator of Natural Resources Governance Institute. And he is also a development practitioner. To continue in that discussion, thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much.
Now, in this part of the discussion, we want to focus more on individual responsibilities, because we are used to demanding of government and expecting government, but we also know that we as individuals should be responsible, shouldn't we?
We should. The part of the responsibilities of citizens is first and foremost to ensure that we provide resources. So, for example, the Constitution of Ghana says that all natural resources, oil, minerals, whatever, belongs to the people of Ghana, but they are entrusted to the president on behalf of the people. So that's the way we hand over these resources. If you're not careful and say you are a member of parliament, and let's say there is a vote to be taken and you toe a particular line, well, that might be the voice of the majority, but it may not necessarily represent the voice of some minority group in the
What advice would you, as a development practitioner, give to the constituents of these parliamentarians who have empowered them to represent them where they are now?
Personally, I think that we can do much better if we get the district assembly representative, especially the chief executive of the district assembly, elected by the people in those constituencies. These people are informed enough to elect the type of president they want, and we are saying that they are not informed enough to elect the chief executive in their area. The district assemblies, which within our constitutional arrangements have been empowered to ensure development in these communities, will begin to be accountable to the communities first and foremost. Institutions and agencies who are supposed to provide services, basic services, to people are not accountable to the people. They are accountable upwards to those who give them money and so on.
And to those who appoint them.
And those who appoint them. And so there's a reverse accountability, and we need to change that. The accountability need to be to the people. And so once that happened, and the chief executive knows that in a couple of years I'm going to account to these people, and that's where I'm going to take my power from, a lot of things will change.
Right.
The other one is we need to understand that get our communities, and that's why a program like this is very important, the people to understand that nobody is doing them a favor
Right.
when they provide basic services. It's not a favor, it's a right to have it.
Right.
That is why we elect governments.
It shouldn't be extraordinary.
It shouldn't be extraordinary.
When you have water, for instance.
We shouldn't go and beg the DCE for water. We shouldn't go and beg the MP for an education facility. We shouldn't go and beg the president.
What about lobbying? I mean, sometimes
lobbying
that, is quite an effective tool.
It is. You can use all those tools, but I think the basic principle is that these are basic rights, and they are things that the duty bearers are supposed to fulfill. These are obligations that they have to fulfill.
Right.
And the citizens have a right to exact this, to claim this right from them. In a society like ours, where there's a lot of inequality, one of the key tools to leveling, providing a level playing field for every person to aspire to their God-given aspirations and potentials is education. And so once you provide that, then the people the sky is the limit. But you deny them a good quality education, and you condemn them into perpetual poverty and deprivation.
And that has a whole lot of implications.
It has a lot of implications.
For all aspects of society.
Because we know that, for example, if you educate people, your health bill, total health bill, comes down. Why? Because educated people are able to make choices in a way that, a lot of preventive diseases are taken care of because they are educated. They are taken out of that ignorance. Your governance processes improves because they are now informed enough to be able to participate effectively. So they just cannot be manipulated. They are able to analyze and vote properly.
Maybe you don't want to wait for 4 years, or you waited for 4 years. You voted for one particular party and they came and they did something. The next party you voted for came and did the same thing. So you get tired of the cycle. How can an individual citizen of a country, for instance, be empowered to take government on?
That's the system of governance we've chosen.
Right.
And there is no way in which it can get perfected. By just one or a couple of elections. There are a number of things that the citizens have to do as well. So in between elections, we hold people to account. And I think we have to do education, which is what you are doing. We have to, a lot of groups are in the system calling on government to, the 2015 budget has just been passed. It's important to see, to try and find yourself in this budget. If you can't find yourself in the budget, then it means that that budget, it was not made for you. Basically, you can look at the budget as the government telling you how they're going to distribute the resources in 2015.
Does it also show
so you need
value
to find
the government,
the
budget shows the value that the government places on you as an individual?
Precisely. It's important to try and find yourself.
I was told of a story in South Africa where some individuals, I think a group of individuals sued government for not providing them water.
Right.
Is that the kind of a picture you're looking at when you say you are expecting a time where Ghana would test the law?
In fact, I think that the time is now. Remember that to be able to provide water to people and therefore ensure that the right to water is fulfilled. There is a policy, state policy, there's a ministry, and in that ministry there are agencies who all have been given resources to fulfill this. So that's where our water company comes in for the urban sector, and then there is the community water as well. They have been given resources. These resources are given to them, so they have a responsibility. So if community water, for example, do not ensure that the right to clean water is provided, In fact, in the case of water, it doesn't even just end there. Water is actually life. We have a responsibility to ensure that this is done.
So if I am not satisfied at all over the years with the kind of services that the electricity company, for instance, gives me, I can take the electricity company to court.
Sure. They get all this opportunity to be able to provide electricity to the people of Ghana. And if they are not able to do that, and they need to be able to justify why they are not able to do it. So I think the point I'm making is that we need to, as citizens, we gradually move from where we are, begging government, calling on government from its good heart to provide this services, to a point where we are beginning to demand this as a matter of right and exacting, because that's the way the Constitution envisages it.
Now, how do you demand it? We've seen a couple of times when people have demonstrated and spoken their mind on radio and TV. How do you demand it and ensure that it is effective enough?
There are several ways you can do this. Let's start from the basics. At the community level, the first point of call, as we said, to your assembly person and then to the district assembly. And let them say that, well, we are not able to do it because the District Assembly Common Fund has not come. Okay, we need to check. So we need to move to the next step, to the Ministry of Local Government. Well, we don't have water, we don't have education. The District Assembly says the District Assembly Common Fund did not come because that's where it was supposed to, the money was supposed to come from. Is it true? If it is true, we need to move to the next step, to the Ministry of Finance. We know, with that example I just gave, we know that, for example, the District Assembly Common Fund is in arrears for a number of, and this is not the first time, it's been in arrears for so many years. Is it the case that there was no allocation? Yes, there was allocation. Why was the money not transferred? The Minister of Finance may have various reasons. They may say, well, we said we were going to collect X amount of money, we didn't end up getting that, so we have to distribute. Then the question then comes, why did you discriminate against this particular allocation? Because that's the one that is going to the communities. We are all competing for these development projects. So for all you know, sometimes government takes certain decisions, or certain developmental decisions, which
will favor them.
And the reason, not just favor them, but sometimes favor a section of the population. If the resources are not enough, and we have a greater voice, and we have access to power, what happens is that you will have a situation where the resources will be distributed
unevenly to the benefit or to the advantage of those in the urban areas whose voices are loud.
It's a question of how the different powers of citizens are at play in this process. So that's why I'm saying that the role of government is to ensure that there's even distribution and that this inequality, which we know exists in our country a lot, especially urban versus rural, is addressed.
On what constitutional basis can you hold them responsible? Maybe you want to go to court and you want to seek further interpretation of a particular section of the Constitution. There
are several provisions in the Constitution, but one of them, since we talked so much about education, 25A1 says all persons shall have the right to equal educational opportunities and facilities, and with a view to achieving the full realization of that right. A, basic education shall be free, compulsory, and available to all. That's what the Constitution says. On the basis of this, if there's a community that has no access to basic education, and I'm talking about the fact that they have children, they are school-going age, they want to go to school.
Mostly the slums, for instance.
And there is no education facility. They can go to court. The directive, under Chapter 6, Directive Principle of State Policy, I already talked about. I also do know that this is one contentious area. People have argued whether you can take the state to court under this provision. But it says in 34(2) that the president shall report to Parliament at least once a year all the steps taken to ensure the realization of the policy objectives aimed in this chapter, and in particular, the realization of basic human rights, a healthy economy, the right to work, the right to good health care, and the right to education.
Right.
So the Constitution is very, very specific on how these rights are supposed to be, attained.
So if you should go to court on this basis, you should find some redress.
Yes, if you can show that
these rights have not been fulfilled, or these rights have been violated.
And so on. Yes. The assumption here is that the government can only use lack of resources as an excuse or a reason if they can demonstrate that they have efficiently and effectively utilized the resources. And the only problem is that it's just not enough. I'm interested to see how government can justify the lack of resources as the main reason why some of these rights have not been met. To conclude on that, I would say that I think it's the second most important thing for me is that the citizens have to realize that the duty bearers, and when we talk about duty bearers, we are talking about government, agencies, all states, those who have been given state resources to fulfill these obligations.
In this story that we showed, we have a town that is, well, it's an island that's cut off, let's say, from the main town, and in this town they don't have electricity. They're depending on a solar system that was donated by an NGO. They are getting a borehole again from an NGO. They're getting a place of convenience from an NGO. But this is a country, this is an island which votes.
Gradually, another avenue on which citizens are able to exact this accountability, in addition to what they demand from the conventional framework, is through some of these civic organizations, where you find a lot of civil society organizations, NGOs in particular, those in policy area, doing research, analysis, the media in particular. That's the space the media occupies, to be able to play this interface role and ensuring that responsibility, that accountability of government gets to the people. So what I need to add quickly is that it is not okay where government completely absorbs itself and basically leave this responsibility of providing development to NGOs. NGOs have a role to play, and they play quite a critical role.
Right.
But the primary responsibility of providing development to the people is government. Ghana is developmentally, I think we are going forward, but we need to address the issue of social inequality.
Social inequality. That would be your final words?
Well, I think so.
Okay, thank you very much. I've been speaking with Emmanuel Koyule, who is the Africa Regional Coordinator of Natural Resources Governance Institute, and he is a development practitioner. Well, they say talk is cheap, but some talk can be very expensive, and I believe that this talk is expensive, especially when it is giving you such an insight into what your rights are, how you can demand these rights of government or of the state, and what your responsibilities are, how you can contribute meaningfully to making this country what we all want it to be. This has been Ice Right, and on this show, we tell you what your rights and responsibilities according to the Constitution are. My name is Gifty Andoh Apphia. I have learned a lot, and I hope that you have learned a lot as well. We look forward to seeing you again next week with, of course, some more exciting editions.